Good day. In this video, I will be discussing the genetic approach of Gordon Allport's motivation and personality. Overview of Allport's psychology of individual. The focus of the trait or genetics approach is to identify types of categories of traits that describe a large number of people and that can be used to predict behavior. It assumes that all people fit into predict behavior. It fits into one of the categories, that all people within a category are basically alike, and that the behavior of people in one category is distinct from that of people in other categories. In genetic approach, there is a little effort to explain behavior. Instead, trait researchers attempt to describe personality variables and predict behavior. Trait researchers try to describe how general groups of people will behave. In Allport's psychology of individual, more than any other personality theories, Gordon Allport emphasized the uniqueness of the individual. He believed that attempts to describe people in terms of general traits rob them of their unique individuality. For this reason, Allport objected to trait and factor theories that tend to reduce individual behaviors to common traits. In consistency with Allport's emphasis on each person's uniqueness was his willingness to study in depth a single individual. He called the study of the individual morphogenic science and contrasted it with the nomothetic methods used by most other psychologists. Morphogenic methods are those that gather data on a single individual, whereas nomothetic methods gather data on groups of people. Allport also advocated an eclectic approach to theory building. He accepted some of the contributions of Freud, Maslow, Rogers, Eysenck, Skinner, and others. But he believed that no one of these theories is able to adequately explain the total growing and unique personality. So let's talk about Allport. Biography of Gordon Allport. Gordon W. Allport was born in Indiana in 1897. He received an undergraduate degree in philosophy and economics from Harvard. After receiving a PhD from Harvard, Allport spent 2 years studying under some of the great German psychologists, but he returned to teach at Harvard. 2 years later, he took a position at Dartmouth, but after 4 years at Dartmouth, he returned to Harvard, where he remained until his death in 1967. Next is Allport's contribution to personality theory. In Allport's approach to personality theory, he defined as what is personality. He defined personality as the dynamic organization within the individual of those psychophysical systems that determine his unique adjustments to his environment. This definition includes both physical and psychological properties and both stability and flexibility. Also, personality not only is something but does something. That is, it includes both behavior and thinking. Next is, what is the role of conscious motivation? More than any other personality theories, Allport recognizes the importance of conscious motivation. His emphasis of conscious motivation probably began with his short-lived discussion with Freud, when Allport had not yet selected a career in psychology. Rather than viewing Freud's comments as an expression of an unconscious motive, Allport believed that Freud missed the point of Allport's story, whereas Freud would attribute an unconscious desire in the story of a young boy on the tram car. Allport saw the story as an expression of a conscious motive. Next is structure of personality. To Allport, the most important structures of personality are those that permit description of the individual in terms of individual characteristics, and he called these individual structures as personal dispositions. Personal dispositions. To Allport distinguished between common traits, which are general characteristics held in common by many people. And the other one is the personal disposition, which are peculiar to the individual. Allport in 1961 defined a personal disposition as a general neuropsychotic structure peculiar to the individual, with the capacity to render many stimuli functionally equivalent to the initiate and guide consistent forms of adaptive and stylistic behavior. Next is the levels of personal dispositions. Number 1 is the cardinal dispositions. It is a single trait which dominates the personality and behavior of a person. Next is the central dispositions, who are the 5 to 10 traits that most influence a person's behavior. The third is the secondary dispositions, are those traits that are not in the central traits but influence our behavior in smaller role. Next is the motivational and stylistic dispositions. Gordon Allport further divided personal dispositions into 2. One is the motivational dispositions, which are strong enough to initiate actions, while the other one is the stylistic dispositions, which refer to the manner in which an individual behaves and which guide rather than initiate action. Next is proprium. Proprium refers to those behaviors and characteristics that people regard as warm, central, and important in their lives. They are characteristics that an individual refers to in such terms as that is me or this is mine. All these characteristics that are peculiarly mine both belong to proprium. Next is the Allport's concept of motivation. Allport insisted that an adequate theory of motivation must consider the notion that motives change as people mature and also that people are motivated by present drives and wants. To Allport, people not only react to their environment, but they also shape their environment and cause it to react to them. His proactive approach emphasized the idea that people often seek additional tension and that they purposefully act on their environment in a way that fosters growth towards psychological health. That's all. Thank you.